Since my last video was blocked, it inspired me to put something together that explains it even better than the last video. This is much more direct, and it's a better dot connector. Our reality in 60 minutes or less. It's a culmination of everything I've looked at for the past 10 years. Start with the absolute basics, especially if anybody's new here. The world out our window isn't normal or natural. It's not natural for human beings. We've been conditioned that it is just the best a society can do for so many people. Never-ending war. It's constant death for no reason at all. When you look closely at it, no reason at all. There's trillions wasted, yet massive poverty everywhere. Nothing improves for the people's benefit. Most people listening to this and myself, we could speak for about 50 hours on the third bullet point. I'll present one example. Waffle House waitress making $18,000 a year in tips is subject to the same 80,000 page tax code that Warren Buffett is. There are thousands or tens of thousands of things that could have been fixed to make people's lives easier, more simple. They're never fixed. It's by design. We must move on. Disease increases always. No cures in 50 years. But we have all this wondrous tech all around us and advancements everywhere else, but not in disease. Wonder how that's working. We must move on. We are more separated from each other than ever before, and it just gets worse with each passing decade. Now, we don't have to ever interact with each other. We can see what our best friend made for dinner with Facebook. This is all by design. Chemtrails. Who knows exactly what that is? But the mind-boggling thing is why others around us can't see that it was beautifully crystal clear blue, and then at about 11 o'clock some planes came by, and they had 100-mile long trails that created clouds, and now it's cloudy all afternoon. Very simple to see, yet most people can't see it. The world obviously is not natural for human beings. This is intentional habituation. People are so used to all of this, they don't realize there is no way in the world, or no way the world should exist in the state that it does. This is intentional habituation, which means getting used to something by design. They just are conditioned to believe this is just the very best that a modern society can do. And politicians, they get corrupted, but they go to Washington trying their best, and they just lose their way. And the endless excuses were given to believe that this is the best that can be done, when it's actually just the opposite. It is a system that is actually set up to work against us, as hopefully you'll see. The ending message of this video is very positive. Now, all of this means, if there has been a warping of reality, that there is something here designed to inflict pain, suffering, and to warp what should be natural for humans. Sure, leads you right back to the book of Genesis, the garden, the serpent. Whether Genesis is real, a metaphor, something else, the parallel is applicable, no doubt about it. We assume this evil thing here is acting against our will. It may be, or it may not be. It may be fulfilling its role in our life test, which could be a spiritual training class. Now, the evidence seems overwhelming that this evil that exists here, that it has created a world that is not what's really best for us, that it is just out to screw us. And that certainly may be the case. It gets something by screwing us. It feeds off that. I mean, certainly that may be the case. But don't take off the table that when you see this as a life test, tests aren't easy. Tests can be quite hard. That this evil thing may be actually fulfilling its role in helping us fulfill and actually win our life test. Always keep that on the table. We will touch on that very soon. So we have the endless array of bad guys, which I'll talk about more in this presentation. The George Bush creature's role. I've always said it could be very similar to this keymaker in The Matrix Part 2. He says, I know because I must know. It is my purpose. It's the reason I am here, the same reason we are all here. The key is, it is my purpose. The keymaker here, insert the face of George Bush, of Zygmunt Brzezinski, of any bad actor in this reality play. Insert Joseph Stalin, or anybody. It simply could be their role. So we learn our lesson in our life test, even though it certainly appears and they are screwing us. You understand what I'm saying? Just keep that on the table. Now whatever this thing is here to degrade us, to screw us over, it doesn't just influence reality. It actually delivers and lays down a reality script of some kind. This is a theme that I'll come back to. There's a reality script of some kind playing out. I'll touch on that as we move forward. Now, the script, for those who can notice, often reveals itself in different ways. For example, if you really spend an hour thinking through what the eclipse is, the solar eclipse, and don't just listen to a plastic man on the news, it's pretty easy to determine that what's happening is practically impossible, per the definition of the word practical, if it's what they say it is. Okay, I could do 2 hours on the first bullet point. I must move on. It's easy to come to the conclusion that, unless you buy into 1 in 800 billion coincidences, it's a 1 in 800 billion. Most smart people don't buy 1 in 800 billion coincidences. They look for answers somewhere else. Like the Kennedy to Lincoln synchronicities is a 1 in a billion by itself. 50 ridiculous synchronicities and coincidences between the Kennedy assassination and the Lincoln assassination. Like Lincoln, Lee Harvey Oswald committed the act in a warehouse, and then he ran and fled into a theater. John Wilkes Booth committed the act in a theater, and then he ran and fled into a warehouse. Kennedy's secretary was Lincoln. Lincoln's secretary was Kennedy. This goes on for 50 synchronicities. Past about 15 or 20, it becomes almost mathematically impossible. Therefore, people question what is going on in reality itself just from this one example. And there are thousands of others. So there are endless reality glitches like the pyramids. Not just no one can explain how they were built, which is, well, shouldn't we be able to explain that now with our wondrous technology? There's all sorts of weird anomalies with the pyramids, like how the golden ratio and pi is encoded in them, how the lines of latitude or longitude, the 9-digit number, matches up with the exact same 9 digits of the speed of light. Someone will say, well, they didn't know the speed of light when they built the pyramids. Well, who knows what they knew or what they didn't? I'm just pointing out, if we were to spend 5 or 6 hours on this one slide, could present an endless list of reality glitches like that, which proves reality itself is something other than what we think it is. Every event, every major event is coded with some sort of numbers or gematria, whether it be a recent shooting or the license plate on the back of Archduke Ferdinand's license plate that he was assassinated to start World War I. And why wouldn't World War I start? A whole world war start over the assassination of one man probably no one liked. That makes perfect sense. The license plate, A for armistice, 11/11/18, the exact date of the armistice encoded on the license plate. This reality in some way delivers a script. There it says men. What that means, of men. I didn't have room to write anymore in this slide. Just regular old men, and the buffoons you see on TV put their fat faces up in front of the camera like Kissinger and George Bush. These people couldn't pull off the intricate script that's being delivered. Therefore, something else is going on, something else in the nature or fabric of reality itself. There's ridiculous elements all over our reality. The Fresh Kills landfill is where supposedly the scraps of steel and pieces were taken and body parts were taken after 9/11. So 9/11 happens and the stuff is hauled off to the Fresh Kills landfill. I mean, we could do hundreds more bullet points just like this. Okay, there's reality anomalies that just don't work if you line them up next to each other, if there isn't a reality script or a literal matrix being delivered somehow. These things happen one at a time for just the people around us, and it's just seen as a coincidence. And the next coincidence for your neighbor comes 3 or 4 weeks later, and he just sees that one as a coincidence. If anybody puts them all together, you simply come to the conclusion very quickly it just can't happen naturally or normally. So the most recent element of the script is just a ridiculous bozo show in politics. This just absurd notions for 2.5 years, made up politics. Russians hacked the election. You could ask people in the street what that means. They won't even know what it means. You could say, well, what states did the Russians influence? What states did the Russians turn to for Trump? Nobody will know. The news doesn't ever explain it. People just listen and shake their head like Pavlov's dog. The script, to those who can see, it's easily revealed at this point in 2019. Social directives, Bruce, you know the man woman I'm talking about. Very obvious this whole directive came from Mount Olympus. It wasn't one ex-athlete who was just so dying to be a woman, and then all the magazine covers and magazine articles were all infatuated with this story. No, this was a story crafted on high, on Mount Olympus, and pushed down onto the masses. Okay? It didn't rise up from the bottom to the top. It was just the opposite. For those who can see, the script at this point is obvious. So it's easier to see our life mission if we can accept that this is some sort of crafted reality, like a dream of some kind. It's easier to see, in other words, we're here for a reason, for our own life mission. If things don't seem as real, if we can see that this isn't quite real, if everything's real and everything's hard, everything's solid, and a brick kind of hurts when it hits you on the head, and then it's like, I'll just chase what society wants me to chase, and you lose touch that this could be a life mission. You see it as a dream. Life is but a dream. These even things like songs like that the reality truths are encoded in our media, all over the place. And it says ME, the Mandela effect. If you are Mandela affected, and I know at least half of you listening will not be, but if you are, it's easier to see that this is some sort of crafted reality, like a dream. And interesting how the Mandela effect, the initials are me, about helping me or I see something about reality itself. What is crafting the sick reality then? We always have to get to the who done it. That's what we do. Who done it? Who's doing it to us? Who cares? It wants those of us who can see chasing it all our lives. It's crystal clear to me. It wants those who can see that the reality as it's delivered to us is not natural. It's very sick. It's meant to put us into a sick state, put us into fear, anxiety. It wants us chasing it. No doubt about it. So obviously, you probably shouldn't chase it. We'll touch on that. The reality script presents an endless bad guy list, and it's like this in a Legion of Doom. It's as comical as the Legion of Doom, which to me it's like a cartoon world. Endless bad guy list. Just everywhere we look as truthers, we grab our rifles and we are we're truth warriors, truth seekers, and we're out to be righteous and out to do right by our better man, and we grab our rifles and go hunting the endless rabbit holes that are just created by this reality, and we search for the endless bad guy list. Archons, reptilians, Anunnaki, Enki, Enlil, Satan, Lucifer, Khazarian bankers, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, secret societies, Nephilim, AI. This is some AI artificial construct, and there's a master AI that's in charge of everything, and we're in a sim inside of a sim inside of a sim, controlled by an evil AI. There are greys, aliens, and 1,000 other types of aliens, little blue bird people. There are other gods that the creatures worship, like Baal and Moloch and Tammuz, and it's just endless. The bad guy list is endless. So to me, the wise man or woman steps back and says, this is like this. And if it's like this, then It's part of the crafted show, the reality script. If you ask me, that's the way I interpret it. But you truthers can just spend the rest of your lives, pick one of these bullet points and spend 5 years on each, and eventually I'm sure you'll get to what's hiding behind the curtain. The smart man or woman in the truth community at this point knows that if any of the bad guys were going to be revealed, they would be revealed by now. Therefore, there is an endless set of curtains that it wants us to look behind. This is crystal clear to me. I hope it is to you. Those of us who can see are noticed by the system itself. It notices exactly who we are. We have totally announced ourselves to it. And mostly by clicking likes, we tell it exactly who we are. Like buttons on YouTube and Facebook. It reads all of our emails. It knows more about us than Santa Claus. Now, then, as everything else is, this is spun in the truth community by those that wish to manipulate us, the screen and the system, and I'll say it for now. We'll get away from saying powers that be. It's meant to manipulate us. So we think, oh, they're going to round us up. And, oh, I'm really scared. I'm going to be put into a FEMA camp. And no, no, no. They're not coming to round us up. That is not the reason they are tracking or paying attention to us. We'll get to that. It's just another element of fear inserted in the truth community. But there is no doubt we tell it exactly who we are as creative beings, very powerful creative beings who can see the ruse. And it knows who we are. That's fine. I'm not trying to hide from anybody, obviously, with a channel like this. Neither should you. Now, again, the names, it has 1,000 names. Remember the bad guy list? But for now, for the purposes of this video, we're just going to call it the Loc-Nar. The Loc-Nar, standing behind the screen all around us, society's script, it customizes the distraction for each group. What does the Loc-Nar ultimately want? Mission 1, and this is its main mission, to distract humanity. It's a screen that surrounds us, and it wants us to engage it constantly. It brings us never-ending debt, an endless work week, keeping up with the Joneses, making sure the kids have soccer, and then we take them to cello practice, and blah, 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 blah. Endless Netflix and Hulu content and Prime content, and now Apple's getting involved. Folks, the amount of content is not normal. It can't all support itself from a profit and loss standpoint. Hear me out. No one has ever mentioned this. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just trying to stress some of the dots I've connected and I really feel sure about. All the content we see through our smart TVs, there's no way it can support itself from a profit and loss perspective. They don't need to make any money. The system pays for whatever content anybody can come up with because it's a distraction. Keeps us from finding out what this life is all about, which we'll get to. There's drugs and alcohol and ridiculous news cycle that's always in our face. Now we have the Mueller report. And what did Trump do over the last 2 years with that Russian investigation? And Jesse Smollett and endless nonsense. Facebook, iPhone, terrorism, blah, 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 blah. Its mission, a gigantic IMAX screen in our face to distract. Mission 2, no doubt about this, relates right back to what people, whatever anybody thinks about, Genesis and the Garden of Eden. It's to degrade us spiritually. There's learned helplessness in this society, constant anxiety, constant stress, worry, fear, anger, lust, vice. Puts us into racial camps. Go march for your camp. Economic caste system, the 99%, the 1%. Religious camps. We've been taught to hate Muslims. I'm sure they've been taught to hate Westerners. This is all by design. All of this is by design. Gender camps now is a huge thing. Sexual camps. Sports camps. The Patriots hate the Eagles, and the Eagles hate the Patriots. It extends down to the lowest levels. People get into the little camps for their products. Coke versus Pepsi. Back in the old days, there were people that would just drink Budweiser, and that was an American brand. They'd hate the other brands. And people have actually, you've seen on the back of pickup trucks, they have like Calvin and Hobbes. I don't know if it's, he's like pissing on a, you've seen it. It's a Ford, and there's a little sticker of him peeing on a Chevy slogan. Or so I mean, actually buying a certain type of automobile and then putting a sticker that you hate the other brand of automobile. I mean, are you kidding me? This is all by design. Every camp, they make fake rivalries. They how about spiritual degradation that's totally popping up in our face, like unbelievable things like Ashley Madison, pops up while I'm on the internet. Life's too short to not cheat on your spouse. Check out Ashley Madison. And then I say back to it, well, there's nothing to cheat on here. I need a date in the last decade to do that, Ashley. All of this debauchery and spiritual degradation grows worse over time. It keeps biting off more. The system seems to be overstepping its bounds. But in doing that, per the rule of karma, it has to reveal more. It has to show its true nature more, which it has been to you and I who can see. So, like I've mentioned and alluded to, we'll go over it one last time. It's the analogy of the IMAX screen. That's the presentation of the societal construct. It's all around us, projecting its endless, useless images upon us for us to engage with. Whether it be a Donald Trump, tweet, or the Super Bowl, or a Jussie Smollett, or a ridiculous news story, or a new rap song, and just constant nonsense, and it wants us focused on that screen all around us. No doubt about that. That's what it wants. And if it's successful, it gets something. Through our attention, it gets something. The screen's goal: to distract us from what we are supposed to do in this life for ourselves. Very simple. Say it again. The screen's goal, the societal construct's goal, and whatever Lochnar is standing behind the screen projecting its sock puppet images, to distract us from what we are supposed to do in this life for ourselves, to draw us outside of ourselves. If we're focused on a Donald Trump tweet or anything else on the screen, well, we're not really working to improve ourselves, are we? And again, it doesn't matter what the Lochnar gets, whether it feeds off of our attention, or it gets whatever it gets, or again, or it's just fulfilling a role. It's fulfilling a role, and that is the role of this realm. Okay, again, it might not be evil per definition if it's just fulfilling a role and doing things that we need to observe to improve ourselves. Don't take that off the table. Now, if the trick of the screen and the Lochnar that stands behind it is successful, and it gets your attention, gets you to do a march or engage with it or hate it. If it's successful, the trick, it gets something, while you must lose something. It's the nature of a dual realm. If it gets something, you lose something. Likely you lose a spiritual piece of yourself. And it's, I say, knife in the back example. This is where all the truth community wants to know exactly all the elements of the trick. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. Who's doing it to us? Well, why is it doing it to us? All the elements. All the elements are not important for you to win your life test, for you to pass your life test, to improve yourself. Knife in the back example. I've used it before. Dark alley. Somebody stabs a knife in your back and says something you don't even understand at first. Are you going to immediately change your behavior? Are you going to turn around and throw a punch, perhaps, which is fine? Are you going to run or dodge or duck or sprint? Or are you going to try to go, whoever's sticking the knife in my back, before I do anything, I need to know your intentions. I need to know why you're doing that. Were you brought up right as a kid? Tell me. I need to know the who, what, when, where, why, and how of why you're putting a knife in my back right now before I do anything. No, we don't need to know all that to change ourselves. There's obviously in this reality something like a Lochnar is sticking a knife in our back. I'm going to change myself, which will remove the knife. I don't need to know exactly every element of what's going on. So, who we should chase and guess is behind the screen as the writer-director. This is what the system wants us. And this is really who you should spend your time tracking down That's what it wants us to do as good little hunters of rabbits. It says underneath, who cares? Who cares which one of these or any of these are responsible? Who cares? Now, who are the actors or role players on the screen? There's those behind the screen, okay, or whatever that may be, that list, which we'll never know exactly what it is, so let's stop chasing it. Chasing it is outside of ourselves. But we are confronted with the role players on the screen, the sock puppet projections on the screen. Things like the George Bush creatures here, all the nasty politicians like Pelosi and John McCain and Schumer, and just useless or useful idiots like the Obama sock puppet. Ellen DeGenerate, she has a role to play in the system, a distraction role, whether she knows exactly what she's doing or not. Bruce, race baiters like Chris Rock and Spike Lee, George Looney types. You have just shills of the system like Bruce Springsteen. All the new money, Bill Gates and all of the money list on Forbes magazine, Zuckerberg, and what do we have? Bezos now is the most richest person in the world. No, that's all new money. If it came out of a website, okay, that's new money. That's not the real control of this world. That's what they want you to think through those Forbes lists. That's not real money at all. We've proven that. All the old money that goes back hundreds and hundreds of years, all they would literally have to do is almost keep it in a bank, and they'd be worth much, much more than Bezos. Okay? But they just want you to think that, yeah, it just came up recently. Yeah. It's another distraction. The government projects itself, its big, fat Jabba the Hutt belly in our faces from the screen all day long with its next bullet point. Endless rules, endless ordinance, laws, rules, regulation, code. It's all to make our lives more complicated. And what does all that do? It keeps us from finding out the true meaning of life. There's news anchors putting their big fat face on the screen like Anderson Cooper and all the scientific experts who will tell us how the world really works, of which about 95% of all their presentations are just there to mislead, to put us in the wrong place. And they're not all in on it. They're not all sitting down at their computers and saying, how can I craft a lie today? I'll come up with this mathematical equation that proves the universe really is this. And they're not all in on it. Okay, like go back to the on the left side, the race baiting, Spike Lee types, Chris Rock types. They're not in on it. They're not saying, I know exactly the role I'm playing for the system. The system pushes these people forward because unknowingly these people play out or push the exact types of things that the system once pushed. On the other side, it's the same reason why certain YouTube accounts or websites are shut down and censored. It's the same principle going on. Chris Rock thinks he's just the funniest guy in the world. But because his jokes are so racial, the system itself, in my opinion, has promoted him to a level that he wouldn't normally or naturally achieve on his own. Since he's so wonderful at creating racial division, then Gouda's trying to get on my lap. Sorry, Gouda, no. Since he's so wonderful at chasing delivering racial division, then he's taken right to the top, as is Spike Lee. Again, if you interview Spike Lee, he's not going to say, I know my role here is just to get black people to hate white people. He's probably not even aware of that. But nevertheless, that's how he is being used. So if you see a fat face on the screen, then that fat face controls nothing important. They're mostly, like I mentioned, unknowingly doing the bidding of whatever created the screen, like the Lochnar or whatever's standing behind it, just like the Spike Lee and the Chris Rock example, and the example of all the scientific experts. It's amazing how every scientific expert that pushes forth this notion that we're in the middle of space and it's all meaningless and nobody can find meaning of anything, we're just a 1/1,000,000th of a piece of dust. All those scientific experts are all pushed to the top of society. Coincidence? No, not in my opinion. Are they all in on it? No, they're not. That's one of the key points. Um, I've talked about this being the Truman Show. The Truman Show doesn't work if there's one Truman and everybody else is an actor trying to get in front of Truman to convince him. Truman Show works great like this reality does if everybody's a Truman. Nobody really sees the role they're carrying out for the TV show. They all believe it's real, even though they're all inside that fake dome. That's the best or the only Truman Show that works. That's the most recent design of the Matrix, per what the architect alluded to. The first few permutations of the Matrix didn't work. People didn't have a choice. Maybe it's like the same thing. So remember, I said the system knows some of us can see. You and I can see a lot of this. So the distraction is customized for us. Remember, its number one role is to distract. So it's customized for us. Truth or distractions? Rothschilds, 9/11, mud floods, fake shooting, fake space missions, government criminality, Pizzagate, erased history, Tartaria, the Earth's shape, and possibility the Mandela effect, if they had a hand in creating it. Possibly the Mandela effect is another distraction, if they had a hand in creating it. All of this draws us outside of ourselves to focus on what's out there. If you're focused on what's out there, that's exactly what they want. Now these rabbit holes, by the way, I am Mandela affected. Okay, I see these things, but I'm not going to take off the table that it is not a crafted distraction, even though I have anger effects and I know things have changed. Who's to say what the purpose of those changes are? If you really look at what we're all doing is we're just chasing the screen, just like everything else here. So these rabbit holes are mostly real. They're endless, and to me, they're matrix generated. So I don't want to make an enemy with somebody that spent 100 hours looking at what Tartaria might be or mud floods. Most of these things are real. Okay, they're absolutely, that person could go out to a site and they could see that a hotel was covered in mud and it would make no sense why the windows were below the mud, and all of this could be real. I'm not saying they've wasted their time or anybody looking into any of these rabbit holes. Like, the rabbit holes I looked in from 2010 or to 12 through 2016. I have rabbit holes I just dove into for years. They're real, okay? But the key here, in my opinion, they are matrix generated, which means to me this is a fluid reality, okay? They're matrix generated. Now, most people still believe, even people here probably still believe that everything's just completely solid, completely real, even though the evidence is overwhelming that that's just not the case. It's 10 to 1 that everything's not real. Atoms don't even touch each other. The electron just roams around the outside. So I'm saying that I believe that the reality itself can generate the endless conspiracy that we see. And I'm also saying that it knows exactly the type of people we are, and the matrix generates this for us, so we chase it. Again, grabbing our rifle to go chase it is drawing ourselves outside. It's no different than seeking what's on the screen. Okay, and I don't know exactly how they generate the reality, but just think about this, whether you agree with me or not. Just be very honest with me on this question. No matter, many of you will disagree with me on many things I just said. Let's just say, you just had to house arrest. You're in your bedroom and you're just locked in there for 6 months, and you could go on YouTube and the internet. That's all you could do. And you just had to sit there. Do you think that within a short period of time, a few months perhaps, that another conspiracy would pop up? Or do you think we're just done with them? I mean, I think it's overwhelming that these rabbit holes are generated somehow. Just when we think okay, we kind of understand all of this and we know where the rabbit holes are, all of a sudden something pops up completely out of the blue, like Tartaria, like mud flood, like 1,000 years missing history. And deep down, if everyone's being honest, we would know that if we just waited long enough, or just even a few more months or a year, something else would pop up. Something else wondrous that we couldn't imagine will pop up. Now, we didn't have these things popping up more before 2010 or before 2001. Maybe that was the marker. we grew up in the 70s and 80s and 90s. This stuff just didn't pop up. Well, Matt, we weren't paying attention to it. Well, I hear you, but it wasn't, it didn't pop up and generate itself, the endless rabbit holes like it does now. And if we're honest with ourselves, we know something else is going to pop up pretty soon. We're not done with it. Therefore, an endless array of conspiracies to chase is, to me, it's a system generated or a matrix in some way generated reality. There's no other explanation. Now, what do all truth or pursuits have in common? Like I alluded to, it's engaging with the screen and looking outward, just like everyone else is conditioned to look outward at whatever their temptations are. It says we are. Well, I'm sorry, I made a mistake there. I'll just say we have not been special up to now. We think we're holier than thou. We can see these things that our friends can, our family can't, our neighbors can't, and nobody can see that it's not 19 hijackers. We have not been special or deserving of a special award or righteous. We have not, because we've engaged in the same distraction. It's a customized distraction. We've engaged the screen chasing these truth subjects. It's still engaging the screen. It still gets back to the number one mission of the system, to pull us outside of ourselves and get us focused on something out there. So it's no different. So I will touch on that in a moment. I'll get back to that. That's very important. Let's just take a break here. They call the game, the game we've all played, they call it Trivial Pursuit. All of this is truth, okay? Everything like this is a truth drop, in my opinion. They call it Trivial Pursuit for a reason. Everything out on the screen is a trivial pursuit. Everything that surrounds us is a trivial pursuit. So if the screen presents us with Tartaria, we're going to go out and look at it. That's a trivial pursuit. Keeps us away from what's inside of ourselves. I'll get to the most important part, the inside of ourselves piece, soon. But Matt, they call it Trivial Pursuit because it's trivia. Well, there's two meanings to it, isn't there? It's not trivia. Geography questions, per the definition of trivia. Trivia is like, who was the best, who was up for best actor in the 1958 Oscars? So that's trivia. But questions on history or geography are not trivia. They're too important to be trivia if you look at the definition of trivia. But they're telling you, even questions on history and geography it's a trivial pursuit. It's trivial. Not worth your time or attention. You should be doing other things. That's what that game title tells me. Now, I could be wrong about Trivial Pursuit. Somebody listening to this saying, this jerk sees a conspiracy in everything, even a game title. Maybe we'll disagree in certain areas. Fine. I generally think this is how reality works and presents itself to us. If we disagree in that one area, fine, but don't lose sight of the main message. Everything put on the screen for us to look at and notice and engage with, and do our marches and buy our engage and join this camp and do this march. It's all a trivial pursuit. That's what reality tells us. Now, on the same topic of games, other games reveal truths like Monopoly. In my opinion, like I said, most things like that are just huge influences in society itself, like the game of Monopoly. Been around for 80 years, touched billions of people's lives. This stuff just doesn't come up naturally. The game's not good enough to come up naturally. Where everybody played it as a kid, it just was the biggest game of all time. It's not that good. Where if it came up from the bottom level, everybody on Earth would in some way have something to do with the game Monopoly. To me, when something is this pervasive throughout society, it came down from Mount Olympus. It was given to us. We were told how wonderful it is. Just like people ran out to buy the hula hoop. We were told everybody in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, there wasn't one house that didn't have a game of Monopoly. To me, there's a reason for that. Now, what is the game of Monopoly telling us? You could do an hour-long video on that. Is it reveal a recycling system where if you don't do certain things, you just keep going around and around and, do not pass go, do not collect $200? Is it just, saying that, obviously this loop that we're stuck in, a life loop, is just about amassing more materialism and getting more you buy homes and then you put a hotel on it, and is it revealing that? This is all open for debate. Again, I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, because for those that disagree with me and say this jerk again thinks Monopoly is some kind of a cosmic truth reveal, what a nut job, I'm going to lose those people, so I must move on. It says Bruce here because we know Bruce of the gender, was brought down to us from Mount Olympus. He's not just some guy that really wants to be a woman, and he called a news outlet one day, or he called Diane Sawyer and he said, I want to tell everybody about this. No, it's a script that came down to us. He didn't even want to play this role, in my opinion. He was given an offer he couldn't refuse. That's obvious to those who can see. Let's just play a game here. What's the difference between these two? Steve spends thousands of hours watching red carpet ceremonies and memorizing Best Actor nominees back to 1940. That's just, some people would say, that's just a trivial pursuit. I'm a truther. I look for the truth of this world. I'm holier than thou, not that dummy, that sheeple. Bullet point 2. Steve spends thousands of hours breaking down 9/11, breaking down all the fake shootings, breaking down NASA, looking for the wires and all the stuff that they, all of that, by the way, is all put there on purpose. All the mistakes are put there on purpose. They're not that dumb. They're not that dumb. They're not going to release an hour-long interview on the ISS. It doesn't have to be live, and then they're not going to watch it. So there's a wire. A guy went behind on a wire. If it's there on purpose for us to notice. A passport floats down to the bottom of the World Trade Center, and all of the plane is destroyed, and all of the black box, the titanium black box was destroyed. Titanium was destroyed, but paper survived. And no, they're not that dumb. Again, like the role-playing I've used before, somebody would stand up and say, well, we don't really need that passport element to convince people of the 9/11 story. We don't need it. So let's just not go there. It's not really necessary, and it could give us away. They're not stupid. It obviously gives them away because they want to be given away on purpose for those who can see. But the distraction's the same. We're not holier than thou in the second bullet point here. The distraction's the same. The screen surrounds us. We're engaging with it. That fulfills their mission number 1. It's that simple. Now, from the system's perspective, there is no difference, just like I mentioned, between these two people. It's still fulfilling its role, like the keymaker. It is their role. It is my purpose, not mine. I'm saying that as the system itself would say it. The fraud of the system must be examined, like breaking down 9/11 and the fake events. That must be examined. I was there, we all were there. But we must not get stuck on that farm. They want us stuck on that farm. Breaking down the fraud forever is the ultimate graduated animal farm. Now, going back to the second bullet point here, if anybody said, well, does that mean we shouldn't have ever looked at it? You're right. We should have looked at it. No doubt about it. But this must be used as a stepping stone, crossing a brook or a stream. Simply used as a stepping stone to create, like the bullet point or the PowerPoint presentation that's being created here, as a stepping stone. It wants us stuck on that farm forever. So if we're always chasing down, well, planes, no planes. How did they do this aspect of 9/11? How did they do that? Why did they fake this? Why do people believe this? And they actually tried to pass off to us that people were making cell phone calls and endless analysis on all that stuff. And then, oh, that's old, so we'll go over to mud floods and do hours and days on that. And then the fake reality, the reality construct matrix will present the endless, the 1,000-year missing history. So we'll waste all our time on that. And again, I don't want to pick fights with people that spend time on that. Those issues are real, but they're system generated. If you believe this is the Matrix or see that, it can generate whatever it wants. The ultimate, forget Alex Jones or Stefan Molyneux, the high-level intelligent Animal Farm, Stefan Molyneux, and delivering his very profound video, Your Life as a Slave, or whatever that video was. And even though, I understand why that Stefan Molyneux video was so promoted and so successful, and it resonates with it as being true. And the reason it's promoted, and by the way, you You go there later if you want, but he put out a video that's like, it says your life as a slave, or your life in the slave system, and it really does a very intelligent job of showing us how we are all slaves of this system. But it's so successful and pushed by the system that he's just propagating the hell. He's people watch that video, they'll believe we are in a slave system, there's no way out, and they manifest the hell. It's like getting a virus, like the Agent Smith virus. It's watching the Stefan Molyneux video and manifesting the hell. And that is how we've been played. I'll show you that in a moment. But I'm watching the Stefan Molyneux many times over the years, and I'm going, it's so well done. It is describing our predicament. Why is it so promoted by the system? Because it convinces us we are truly slaves without giving us a way out. It's creating more hopelessness without creating a positive message, which I have at the end of this video, not because I think I have to create one, because I truly believe it exists. And that's why incredible truth can be revealed. Credible truth can be promoted by the system. The system will push any truth that where it's propagating, or people will actually be used to manifest more hell. Okay, now the ultimate graduate animal farm is literally with truthers, just engaging the screen, breaking down the next fraud. Always grabbing the rifle and going out on the rabbit hole hunt is the ultimate level of graduated animal farm. So by that definition, if for 5 years I pushed down breaking the next, analyzing the next fake event, analyzing 9/11, if that is true, then for many, many years, without even me knowing it, without me being in on it, I was a graduated animal farm by that definition. The system has played all of us at a genius level, no doubt about it. Let's move on. This picture is basically the system. If this gets confusing, just remember the basics. All it does is put its temptation apple right out to all of us. Now let me read what I wrote here. This is the system. It's designed to taste the apple for each group of people on this earth. For us, it generates endless conspiracy, which is not possible in a normal world. Also, amazingly, others can't see it. So the apple looks scrumptious to us, but the apple doesn't look scrumptious to our neighbor. Our neighbor is tempted by the system and the screen with something else that looks scrumptious, where we don't think it. We think that it's not looking good, but it customizes the distraction. That system, that witch there, that's the system. That's what stands behind the screen. It customized the temptation for each of us. Our temptation has been conspiracy, and it's never-ending system generated. The last sentence here, also amazingly, others can't see. Is the others can't see what we see? Is that a giveaway that this is a system generated temptation customized for us? If it's customized for us, our frequency and resonance, we can see it. Others can't see it. We know and believe now that literally others can't see, in many cases, the conspiracy that we see. It's almost like they wear a veil, and I mean literally can't see it. Not like they just want to protect their worldview. Literally can't see it. It is possible they literally can't see it. Okay, and if that's the case, to me it's because there has been a customized fruit for us to chase. And what do? We gladly pick up our rifles and go out and hunt the rabbit holes that constantly present themselves to us. Think about this. If others can't see it, maybe it's just a meal cooked up and served for us. I went over that in the last video. Now, why can't the Mandela effect, I've already alluded to this, why can't the Mandela effect be the same way? I'm Mandela affected, many of you aren't. So I will be brief here. I know people are triggered by this topic. If the system can generate endless conspiracy and distraction, we know that's what the screen does all around us. That's its goal. Then it acts like a matrix. And if it acts like a matrix, perhaps it's done the same thing with the ME, the Mandela effect. Again, the Mandela effect is an endless examination of the screen, is it not? That's what it is, an endless examination of the screen. We know by definition when we come outside of ourselves and engage with the screen for any reason, then their trick has been pulled off successfully. And maybe every time we engage with the screen, we give ourselves a piece to the screen. We have not only been distracted, we've likely been played to create hell for them and carry the hell forth for them and prop them up with spells of language, admiration, like controllers and powers that be and the elite and all the other names that we've used, names of admiration that we are going to get away from. Penguins, cockroaches, parasites, a lot of names to use that are not names of admiration. So yes, we've been distracted like everyone else, but we've been played. We, homie, been played. Homie does play that in this case. We've been played. Because we chase it, here it comes on the screen. New conspiracy. Oh, wow, isn't this? And you know, people love the conspiracy because over the years, I can't tell you how many people, they tune into my video or they send a comment, oh, I can't wait for this video. And it's as exciting to them as if they love the Matrix trilogy, a fourth Matrix coming out. Oh, what conspiracy are we going to break down? We've all been addicted to it, no doubt about it. We must be honest with ourselves, admit we've been played. The addictive nature of the types of videos that we just crave to watch, it's if we're honest, it's telling us that we are being played and we are giving the system exactly what it wants. I mean, for years, I'm breaking down the next fake event. People would just rub their hands together and grab their Wawa tuna sub and go, oh, what Matt's going to present here is more exciting to me and more addictive than anything I could watch on television. And there's no doubt, if we're being honest, that we have been played, okay? These things are very, very negative. When we see there's a lock in our system here trying to take pieces of our soul or trying to screw us, and we see this as a prison planet, that's bad news. We shouldn't naturally look forward to people putting forth those types of videos, yet if we're honest, we do look forward to it, don't we? I do, you do. We just must realize what's going on here and come out of it. I'm not saying never to chase these things. We needed all these things as stepping stones to where we're going now, but we must leave the farm. At the end of the Matrix, the Oracle and the Architect were happily sitting on a park bench, if you remember. Matrix 3. Supposed to be, I thought they were at odds with each other. I thought they were at war with each other. I thought they were enemies. No, they're sitting at a park bench. Neo and Agent Smith, the two aspects of the same thing, together, in my opinion, they're the one. They were destroyed. At the end of the Matrix, Neo is dead. They just kind of fade away. People don't really even realize that unless you've seen it a few times. Because the Morpheus was saved and the machines and the Sentinels just shut off. People don't realize. No, Neo didn't come back. He's gone. And Smith was destroyed as well. So the two aspects, to me, the two aspects of the one, two into one, perhaps, they were destroyed. And the Oracle and the Architect are singing Kumbaya on the bench. Let me see what this is. Yeah, on the bench together. And that means the Oracle and the Architect, they played Neo and Agent Smith for their own purposes. Now we're playing the same role as Neo and Agent Smith for the system, perhaps. We truthers, people that truly can see. People we say we're better than the other guy because we can see and they're just sheeple. Okay, maybe we do have more life stuff, creative power. Maybe. But we better use it the right way and not be played, because we've been played. We've been played worse than the people that just bow down to the red carpet. For now, it's clear the system needs us to shape reality for it. That's pretty obvious. It needs us to shape reality for it. It can't do all the jobs directly. It's not that it doesn't want to it doesn't want to, it can't. Being played like Smith and Neo, when we finish the task for them, maybe we will be destroyed. Something's being built. We're helping it build it, no doubt about it. And will we be destroyed if we finish the job? Let's stop, put our tools down. This tool I'm holding right now, maybe not right now as of the realization of this video, but the tool, like if it was a year from now or a year ago, I'm holding a tool, I better just drop it. Oh my gosh, I'm building the hell for them. Drop the tool. If there's any chance you're building the hell for them, drop the tool. If you want to keep going after conspiracy, always tell people, tell your subscribers that this is part of the presentation of the fraud of this world. Once we see the fraud of this world, like a missing 1,000 years, we better not get stuck there. We better use it to go on and improve ourselves and not continuously perpetuate the hell. At the end of the Matrix 3, Sati's sunset. The Matrix, some sort of AI, at the end of the Matrix Part 3, seems to have new creative power after using and playing Neo and Smith. Smith only changed after Neo jumped into him. Then that was passed to the Oracle via Smith. I'll go over this in detail. Don't read anything. I didn't really write that correctly. I'll just use it as my own notes. The Matrix has new creative powers, it seems, at the end of Matrix 3. So there's this beautiful sunset, and the Oracle is sitting on the bench with the architect. And the Oracle says to Sati, "Did you create that, honey?" And I think she says yes. So she creates this sunset. And the Oracle is surprised that Sati has some sort of creative power, that she can create a sunset. Well, Sati was quote, killed by Smith. She was absorbed into Smith. He put his fingers into everybody, and then he just replicates another Smith, if you remember correctly from the movie. He put his fingers into the Oracle there. She became him. So we thought she killed him. Well, these two were supposedly killed or replicated over by Smith, but yet both of these people pop up at the end, which means they used Smith. They took something from Smith. Neo, in the end of the first Matrix, jumps into Smith, jumps into his stomach, and then he's screwing Smith up, going all around because he's now the one supposedly, which that was misleading in my opinion. He jumps into Smith, and he becomes totally digital. Smith can't control him and gets his ass kicked by Neo at the end of 1. But then in 2, Smith's changed, totally changed. 2 is about him replicating himself, and he's totally changed. Well, why would he just change? Why would Smith change? What did change? What's different? Well, what's different is Neo jumped into him, planted the virus, planted Neo's code, or whatever the virus, planted that virus in Smith. It's a virus that was probably laid down by the architect and the Oracle for their own purposes. So then the architect, the Oracle here, she probably got what she wanted all along. She wanted Neo's original code. Neo gave it to Smith. Smith implanted himself into the Oracle. He supposedly killed her by turning her into another Smith, but there she is at the end, which proves she played him. Proves it, of course. So she played everybody because she has now. Do they have the creative power of the human being? Is that why Sati can make a sunset? Who knows? But this is worth spending time thinking about and looking at. Why are 1,000 YouTube videos and 100,000 TV shows about cataclysm? Think about it. All of these videos about end of the world, we're all going to die, here comes Nibiru, and we're all dead all the time, and the most famous movie is The Road, and we're all addicted to watching this cataclysm. It's addicted us. The system screen has addicted us to loving these types of themes, loving them, because, in my opinion, it wants us to manifest the cataclysm ourselves. All this talk about cataclysm. Even in the Martin Kenney presentation. I'm not passing judgment on Martin Kenney. I find it very interesting, and I'll watch any video he puts out. But that doesn't mean we don't keep the skeptical hat on. 6,000 year cycle, something pretty bad is about to happen. And anybody that wants to get me to believe a cataclysm is coming, I will keep the skeptical hat on and always never take off the table that they are asking me to help manifest the cataclysm. Okay, we must keep that on the table. And watch the videos, and at the end, pronounce your intention and say, oh, by the way, I want to announce the Matrix here as a creative, powerful being. My intention is there's not going to be a cataclysm. As you hear this right now, say it. Why not? What do we have to lose? What do we have to lose if we do have these creative powers? You can either start using them, and maybe there's nothing that will come from it. Or maybe there will be something that comes from it. There's nothing to lose. If you talk to your salad and say, Salad, please bring me your nutrition, your wonderful nutrition. And, thank you, salad, for giving me your vitamins. And, that might seem crazy to people. It might not do anything. But I'm at the point where what do we have to lose? We can't afford, if we have a silver bullet somewhere, we have to fire it off. We can't afford to just say that doesn't sound like we could do that, so I'm just not going to do it. We have to try everything at this point. People will say in the truth community, they want us dead. They're just out to kill all of us. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous. There's no doubt they need us. In the Matrix, Neo to the architect, you need humans. You need humans to survive, and you need humans to live. There are levels of survival that we are prepared to accept, Neo, or whatever he says. They want us dead. Ridiculous. They want us dead. There's 1,000 ways they could have killed us. They have these labs, these labs where they put these chemicals together. They created Lyme disease. They could have put they could have cooked up the bubonic plague or whatever it is times 1,000,000, and they could have immunized themselves, and we'd be gone in a month. They could have killed us They need us. When people say we have creative power, I believe it. Start believing it. There's no downside to not believing it. And wield it. Wield it. Why not? What do you have to lose? We must do it to ourselves, according to these Lochnar beings behind that put their Obama sock puppets on their hands and present that sock puppet on the screen. We must do it to ourselves. We must bring the hell on ourselves. Cancer incidence, it's up 10,000%. Maybe if people stood up and say, why? I was alive in 1975. There was nobody that had cancer. I demand to know. As a sovereign creative being, I don't use whatever language you want. I demand to know why incident rates are up. And then and if there's no natural explanation for it, then I demand it goes away. They likely in the back rooms, whatever the metaphysical back rooms where these Lochnar creatures hang out or whatever it is, likely go, well, we can continue to do it to them. They don't ever demand to know the answer. They don't ever demand it stop. It's like that role playing I talked about where the doomed creature recycled back for millions of years looks up at the demonic type creature, and the demonic creature looks down and is like laughing at him, and he says, when is this torment, this endless torment, going to end? I just died. Now I've got to go back again to that realm. I'm not pushing the recycling. I keep that on the table. Maybe we're recycled back if we don't accomplish our life mission. I don't know. I don't just push that. It's on my table. Maybe it's not on your table. Go with it for this example. Oh, I just finished another lifetime, and I know you're going to send me back. When's this torment going to end? And the demon looks down and says, in this role playing, he says, I can see there's no life stuff left in you. You are Gollum, you're Schmeagol, we've taken it all. There's no life stuff left in you, so I can tell you now. You're going back because you never asked for anything else. We didn't have the power all along. You had the power all along. You never asked. You mean I could have just asked? I've done this role playing before. It's too important not to do it again. I could have just asked or demanded that I've had enough, or I demand better, or I will play out my material existence here, but upon my death I will certainly never come back. We could have just proclaimed it. We could have just not even asked, proclaimed it. We had that. You had the power all along. You never. It's easier to say in this role play. You never asked. You never spoke up. You know what I mean. And then the demon laughs like that. The devil creature at the end of Tom Cruise Legend, which, as old as that movie is, that creature is absolutely well done. One of the greatest bad guys in all of film, considering how old that movie is. So let's not be that doomed Schmeagol creature. Proclaim whatever you want in this life and the next. Not one of these crunchy people that jumps out of bed in the morning and says, I'm going to go create my reality or whatever. It's all the crunchy, and then I'll serve myself grape nuts or something. I'm going to investigate that, because we can't take the chance not to. Okay? That's all I'm saying. Summary. The screen around us wants our energy, attention, and emotional involvement. No doubt about it. That means the real answer is in the only other place we're not looking at. It's within. If the screen's all around us, well, what's the only thing left? Within. It's obvious. We can see what to do by simply noticing that those who dance behind the screen, we can see what they want us to do. Just watch and then go the opposite way. The ruse has become pathetic since 2001. And at the end, I'll talk about this cosmic karma, risk reward. The screen wants us to do certain things. We know what they are. The most obvious is chase materialism. There's a million other things we can see at this point that benefit the screen. It doesn't benefit ourselves. So we can see what it wants us to eat. We just don't eat it. We just take the other path. That's clear. It's crystal clear. That's where to start. The ruse, the way they present it, has become really kind of like a bozo show since 2001. And maybe it says cosmic karma, risk reward. Maybe there's a race against time for them. Maybe they're biting off more than they can chew. Maybe they're pushing the timeline forward because they're running out of time. Like people will talk about this 2020 cosmic conjunction, and maybe they have to get certain things done. And it's like per the cosmic karma. Well, if we're going to try to speed things up, we have to show them. We have to reveal ourselves even more. We have to, and that's why it's getting so ludicrous, the presentation of reality. There's almost no other way to explain it. They're trying to push things forward, but the presentation at the same time has no choice but to become more ludicrous. And they're probably sitting back going, as ludicrous as our presentation is, like 2.5 years of Russians hacked the election, it's amazing more of these people can't see it. Of course, those who can see, this rogue group, people they've identified us, they're going, yeah, they can see even more now. But they're probably saying behind the scenes, they haven't figured out how to use their power. So we're not scared of them yet either. Okay. What are we here in this life to do for ourselves? We're not here to interact with the screen. Okay? That's what it wants to convince us to do. We're here to do for ourselves. That's not selfish. That's not selfish. Because a lot to do for ourselves is helping others. So, one, are we going to be a spirit degraded to nothing? Become a golem or a Schmeagol or an NPC? Lose life stuff each month of this life or over multiple lifetimes, whatever you believe? Or will we strengthen? Are we going to use the tools here to strengthen our life stuff? Soul token deposits every day or withdrawals? It's that simple. The screen is set up to put its big, fat, slimy hand out and take soul tokens. It wants a withdrawal. That's what it's here to do. It's crystal clear. 3, shape ourselves with the tools here or play the game of degradation. Now that video I put out where Kane from Kung Fu is talking to the Sifu master, is talking to the disciple, and is saying, he's one point that I pondered that they say, look, you go into that realm, you have all the tools. That realm provides all the tools to make yourself into anything you want to be, to make yourself the brightest shining light. All the tools are there if you choose to pick up the right tools and put down the demonic tools of vice. But that tool, that realm is just a realm of degradation and distraction and of ego. But I do believe that when I wrote that role play, there's a lot of truth to that. All the tools are here for us to get out whatever we want to get out, or to position our spiritual selves however we want it positioned. Will we become a powerful being, or simply what they're trying to do to us, erode us to a golem, Schmeagol being who just craves my precious? Let's look at the precious. This thing, is this an NPC today? Probably. It chased the ring. Does the ring represent the vice of this world, constructed by the all-seeing eye of Sauron? There's the all-seeing eye of Sauron. What a coincidence. The evil in the Lord of the Rings is the all-seeing eye, just like on the back of the dollar bill. What a coincidence. No, it's a truth drop. To get away with certain things, they must reveal the truth. We know that. So what did the ring represent? Well, Matt, that's Saturn's rings. You don't know that. Who knows? But to me, the ring was made. What do we know? Let's just start with what we know instead of pondering and parroting back, the occult stuff that we're kind of, trained as parrots to parrot back. Let's just start with what do we know. We know that ring was constructed by Sauron, was constructed by the all-seeing eye. We know that ring Okay, whatever the all-seeing eye is, to me that's the Lochnar that stands behind the screen. We know the ring was constructed by it. It was meant to degrade. We know it was meant to degrade, not mankind. I know it's a hobbit, but it's all metaphor. It was meant to degrade mankind because of what happened. We know this was a real hobbit at one point, so we know what it does. It degrades. It removes soul stuff. It removes soul tokens. So the ring is just the screen. I mean, the ring is just another metaphor for society itself, and coveting what the society puts forth as our precious. It's a simple metaphor to me when you can see it. I'm no genius. Maybe I'm missing something, but I'm not going to pretend or try to come up with some occult thing that just because that's what I'm going to parrot back to sound like I know what I'm talking about. Whenever we don't know, just go with the basics. Just go with what we know. And what I just presented is what we know, and we can learn a lot from what we know. So no, that's no coincidence. It was the all-seeing eye. Now this is a good demonstration of basically what they do to us. The elephant as a baby, of course, is tied up with a small string and shown that it can't break that string, and then it doesn't understand its power when it's older, and they can still use the same string tied to a park bench. This is basically the situation, a great metaphor for our predicament today. Well, what are we here to figure out? It's a life test. Well, some ideas here. I don't have all the answers, but I know the answer doesn't lie up on the screen. Is ego really part of you, or more like an entity attachment? Now, why is the entire realm here designed to feed the ego? If the entire realm here is designed to feed the ego, remember that movie American Psycho? Christian Bale? It's right in the title. It tells you you're an American psycho if you're like him. And the message in the movie was not about him being a murderer. The whole first hour was him about coveting a perfect business card and how expensive the leather shoes were and the tailoring and the cufflinks, and comparing himself socially to others, and all about the materialistic screen bullcrap. That's a truth drop. That's the American Psycho. So the entire realm is meant to feed the ego. So if we go the opposite way, then we should use the realm to combat the ego. Perhaps treat it like it potentially could be an entity attachment, not even of ourselves. It's possible. 2. Why did Sigmund Freud, or Sigmund Freud, speak of 3 different aspects of ourself competing? Is it a truth drop of some kind? I'm not saying, look, I don't know what Sigmund Freud was, but when I say fraud here, I mean he obviously played a very important role for this system in putting forth certain ideas that benefit the system. So here I'm talking about the id, the ego, and the superego. 3 different aspects of ourselves competing with one another. That's strange. I thought I was I, or me was me, or there's 3 parts of me competing with one another. Well, I don't know. Was it a truth drop saying, the ego really isn't of you? I don't know. There's just something there, something to think about. 3, are all thoughts our own? I saw a recent video on this that was interesting. It says, why do we assume all of our thoughts are our own? We've all had some weird, creepy thoughts, and we've all said to ourselves, that couldn't have been from me. I've done that many times. That couldn't have been from me. And maybe one of the goals is to say, wait a second, is that thought really from me? Am I in this world but not of this world? The last bullet point, realize we are in this world and not of this world. Thinking that, or really believing that, or seeing that here in this avatar, but we're not from here. It's a temporary stay, hopefully. Maybe some people do get trapped here. We will make sure we don't, or beat that life test. But it makes it easier to take this on as a life test if we see it as transient, as we are not of this world, because the whole society is It just goes out of its way to tell us we are only of this world. That's all the screen does. So if that's the case, you get back to the bullet point before. How do we know all of our thoughts are our own? And whatever matrix has its hand in this reality can't plant certain thoughts. So just getting a handle on that may be important in the life test. So where to begin? I don't have all the answers, but I do believe these basics are like immutable truths. I mean, every road leads right here. Now, where your journey goes is up to you, but I really believe this is where to begin, because there's almost no other option. The screen tells us what to do. We do what it doesn't want. So just start with the absolute basics. Reject the screen and every bit of nonsense around you. Never give it your attention or get angry at it. There's a point where I would get angry at Lawrence O'Donnell. I would get angry at Spike Lee, and that's what it wants. It wins something. It takes something from you when you do that. 2, shed the fear, anxiety, hate, stress that the Screen Guild has installed or instilled in all of us. That's what it does. That's the frequency that likely feeds them. Now, attachment here, I don't mean entity attachment. I mean attachment to this world breeds anxiety, fear, stress. Attachment of losing things. Attachment of, oh, if I lose my job, I won't be able to pay my mortgage. I'll lose my home, or I won't be able to pay for this car payment. Or attachment to things is what this reality wants us to do. If we didn't have a car and house, and remember Caine in Kung Fu? Yeah, he wandered around and he slept in some barns, and that's not so glamorous, but low stress as long as you know where your next meal's coming from. He didn't have an attachment to anything. He had a little bundle he walked around with. There's no attachment to the material world. It can't latch onto you with its anxiety, its stress, and all that this world likes to have us resonating at that frequency without. It comes with attachment. It wants us attached to absolutely everything, mostly maybe even a status we've achieved, or a standing in the community, or being liked amongst certain friends. If certain friends are harmful to you, walk away. You don't need them. It's just because it's life's script that says I must still be friends with these people over here because I always have been. If they're a cancer to you, well, screw them. Just walk away. Just don't return their phone calls. You have to explain anything. It's not your duty. Certain people are very, very cancerous element. Just walk away. The level of stress that will fall off you by not having certain people in your life will be amazing. We've just all been bred that we just can't do that. Well, why not? Never enter a camp or pick a side. Ever. Always, Black Lives Matter. Most people in Black Lives Matter are just trying to do the right thing. But they're as fooled as much as anybody else that's been put into a camp. And I said in this video, we've been fooled more than anybody in this truth community. If you pick a camp or pick a cause, you're playing right into their hands to starve the system. Now, starve the system, it doesn't mean just don't write checks to the cause. It means don't even focus on it. Don't watch the news. Don't even focus on it. You probably get something when you focus on it. You can suck something like a energy vampire. I believe that is on the table. Step 2. If we know the answer is not outside, out on the screen, then it must be inside. It's simple. Is ego really a part of you, or like an entity attachment? Something to really think about. Is it even you? Is it even you? The part you've been bred to identify with, the part that wields the language, the spells, that wants the sex act and the covets the Porsche. Is it even you? It might not even be you. Think about that. Ponder that. It might take 5 to 10 years to figure out that piece, but just keep it on the table. Proclaim your intention and make yourself more pure, more powerful, using the tools of this realm, the tools that this realm affords us. We all sense we've been given all the tools here. As horrible, degrading, and debaucherous and sick as this system and this life is becoming because they're creating the hell, we still feel the tools are here for what we need to do in the life test. So the last sentence, are you working with the tools all your life? Or are you working with the vices that degrade and destroy us? You know, most people are just working with the vices, and then they're comparing themselves. They compare their reflection that's projected on the screen with whether they're successful or not, what their business card says, and how many beach homes they own, and all satanic, for lack of a better word, satanic metrics. That's what this whole system's designed to do to us. I think intention is important. We've been conditioned to just sit back and let all aspects of life come at us and come to us. Just sit back and it'll come to us. That may allow the Lochnar to pitch us a snowball of turds. Just wait for the ground ball of turds to come, and no, just, like in baseball, waiting for the pitch to come in. You got to wait till the pitcher's ready. No. Walk out to the pitcher's mound and throw the pitcher off the mound, grab the ball, and take your bat and whack it over the fence. Intention's important. Intention, projecting outwards. Well, I've been a whole video saying how outwards is not the answer, but intention of, let me just change the word on that. Intention of what you want to accomplish for yourself, not outward on the screen. Of course, I'm not saying that. But, there could be certain elements of society we have to interact with, and we should just do it successfully if we're going to do it. It doesn't mean we have to go live in a cardboard box. I don't believe we have to go live in a cardboard box to win the life test. The absolute first step. These are complicated subjects. So why not start with just the absolute first step and let it develop for you from there. Just understanding the meaning of life may be as simple as seeing that life has meaning. I've said that before. If you see this, you'll likely find it if you proclaim it to yourself and you're searching for it. Probably not a coincidence that atheism is so popular. Who do you think would push that? Well, atheism is the opposite of the first sentence. Just a simple understanding that the meaning of life may be as simple as seeing that life has meaning. Because the entire societal construct is basically to convince you there is no meaning. That we're just atheists, we're going to dust, and it's just a fleeting existence, and you're not an immortal being, and we're just floating around in the middle of space, and nothing has any consequence, and do what thou wilt. And you can see, so even if we didn't resonate with the first sentence, we can see that the script pushes everything else, and we know to do the opposite. We know the truth is the opposite. So the script pushes that we're just some meaningless meat, flesh, body floating around space, and it all means nothing. That they're giving it away. Because they push that, then we know there's meaning here, if we can pick up the right tools. The meaning of life starts with understanding that life has meaning. That quote, as I said, is obviously true because the system tells us it's true. It tells us it's true in its very actions because it pushes just the opposite. It's so revealing. That is just one of the greatest things that I've ever hit on for myself, is to simply know the truth, because they will push the opposite on us. It's plain as day and simple to see. What the pusher man pushes, well, we know it pushes materialism. It's all that matters. The measure of you versus others. It's all that matters. Oh my God, John down the road has no job. Oh no. Doesn't mean shit in the end. Your projection of what you want your projection to be up on the screen. Who cares? Like crying at funerals. Again, we are taught so many things. It's so sad. No, we're taught that. There are communities that celebrate death. They're not crying and sad. Well, Matt, they're sad because they'll miss the person and they're not in their lives. No, we've been taught that. No, we've been taught that. If we truly were taught to celebrate a life and look what that person did in their life mission, and they improve themselves and they spiritually enhance themselves, and they are an immortal being somewhere else, and they use the earth to the best of their ability to benefit themselves, we wouldn't cry. No way. We're taught all this stuff from day one. We have to be aware of that. Like atheism. I would just go to dust. Dust in the wind, all we are, it's just pushed by, even the Kansas song. All we are is dust in the. How many times do we hear that song? Well, for those of us old enough, it was the late 70s. But this is what society's tricks are. Just listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson. You just some asshole floating on a ball in the middle of nothing. 3 or 4. Just a planet in the middle of nothingness. That's all you are, asswipe. A planet in the middle of nothingness. Why would you ever think you're an immortal creative being if you just think you're a planet in the middle of nothingness? We don't even need to tie the elephant up with a little rope. We can use a dental floss now. That's what most people have become. And then there's slogans that we're just beaten down, learned helplessness from all aspects of society, beaten down our whole lives. We hear Ben Franklin's quote, "Only two things are certain in life, death and taxes." And what is the last one? You live life as a bitch and then you die, or I forget what LIHTY stands for when I wrote it. It's like the other slogan, like life's a bitch and then you die, or life's hell then you die, or something like that. That we've heard those slogans, death and taxes, and this is all by design. I don't know what Ben Franklin was. Ben Franklin's even real. What role Ben Franklin played willingly or unwillingly. But I can sniff the Matrix code when I see it, that when there's a slogan perpetuated out on all of us, like there's only two things certain in life, death and taxes. Well, Matt, what's wrong with that? Well, it implants hopelessness. Well, how about what's certain in life should be that we are here to fulfill certain things, to gain soul tokens, to better ourselves, to win our spiritual battle, to enhance ourselves, and even spiritual battle. That's just more. That's how they use language against us. I was thinking about this the other day. Spiritual battle. Battle, that by definition implies we fight something out there, and we have to fight something out on the screen. That's what a battle implies. And again, drawing us outside of ourselves, when the real answer is what we must do for ourselves and not selfishly. We feel so good when we help others because we know it's strengthening our spiritual essence is not being degraded down to Schmiegel. It's becoming something greater when we help others. We can feel it coming back to us. So, that's the summary presentation. And in the end here, I don't have all of the end pieces of what we need to do for ourselves figured out, but I just have a bunch of things here to get people started. And again, there's three tabs here on the absolute basics. The absolute basics. Don't engage the screen at all. What can you do for yourself here? Believing that we're not some jerk floating through space, but that we're really in a life test. And all the tools are all around us, that we would just pick them up and use the right ones. And if people are cancer in your life or anything's bringing you down, just get rid of them. Getting rid of attachments. Oh, it's the freest thing in the world. It's like getting rid of a shackle, a chain, an invisible chain. Getting rid of attachments. There's no feeling like it. Even if you have to start small, like cleaning all the crap out of your house. I mean, that's really small, but that's where we are. I mean, just getting one of those big dumpsters and just finally saying, I'm going to throw this crap out. I haven't used it for years. It has no purpose. That can be freeing. Just start small and see what the pusher man is trying to push. Thanks, guys. See ya.